welcome to another episode of Modern Block. Thank you for joining me today. So, today I thought I'd go through both teams playing in this amazing final. Kind of just talk about the big players coming up here, what's this all about, and go through it pack by pack. So I will have the pictures up a little bit now and then of the actual teams and at the end, so you can see them, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about them first. So, first up here we have the front row from each side. We've got Beast, Bongi and Malherbe facing off against Venipola, which is then Maku, and then George Ford, George, and then we got Sinclair. So Sinclair has been quite a standout in this tournament, really just being up there. He was a nuisance against Australia for sure with a try. He then was a pain against New Zealand the whole game through, really just having like one or two small mistakes, but overall a stunning game. Venipola on the other side was able to gain a lot of ground for his team in that attacking position and is just continuing to be impressive. And that forward pack, for me what's impressive about this forward pack is they are just as good in the scrum as they are off the scrum in the open play, which is really impressive, and I think that's where they get their biggest strength. On the other side, I find Beast is relatively strong in the runs. He isn't as good as he used to be, but he still has a couple of good games on him, and he can definitely be a nuisance in that area. I think that their line-out lifting is probably one of the best in the world, and the scrums, they are incredible. This is definitely where their strength comes. Malherbe has also been growing into this tournament very, very strongly. He has had some good, every now and then a couple of runs. He's able to secure the ball very well. His work rate is increasing every game, and that's great to see. Bongi, I think, is actually up there with Marks now. Both of them are fighting for that top spot, and Bongi's line-out precision has improved hugely, showcasing the quality of the line-outs we've had this tournament. And in the scrum, if he can be, unfortunately sometimes I feel like he doesn't always hook perfectly, and the dominance of the scrum, he utilises that, but he has improved his game overall very well. It continues to be a force on mauls and all that also, so yes, it's good to see him perform and improve himself there. Next up, we have probably the two best lock pairings you can find in World Rugby right now, and it's actually quite interesting how I almost feel that it shows you how important a forward pack is in the tournament, because you've got Etzebeth and Lutiaga facing Etoje and Laws. Wow. Etoje just continues to show that he is a nuisance everywhere, being a pain in the lineouts, being a pain in open play, just like a man apart among like a giant among men. With Laws backing him up, he's got also amazing in the open play, a great enforcer in my opinion. I know that some people say maybe Etoje much more, but he's definitely, in my opinion, more of an enforcer, and it continues to also back up, and the two interplay very well also, something that is so essential in your lock setup. Then on the other side, Etzebeth continues to be a talisman for the South African the forward pack especially. He riles them up, he builds them, and is also a strong leader for that forward pack in my opinion. Lutiaga is amazing in lineouts. He can read them very well, tactically very clever, and has got a tendency to have an insane amount of work rate, following up the ball, attacking ball, and just a nuisance throughout the field also. So these two, I can't say which is the better pairing, but these are definitely two of the best lock packs in the tournament right now. And I think where this is going to be very interesting is both of these teams have been outstanding in lineouts, and I can't wait to see how these lineouts perform in this tournament, as that's one of the biggest ways that England cut apart New Zealand this last weekend, and South Africa has cut apart a couple of teams, having a hard time against Wales. Can they pick up that? And I don't think it was as effective against Wales, whereas New Zealand showed that it's continued to be effective, and how will that affect things? South Africa does obviously have this, then the back three. So there's been some challenging people saying Kolisi must actually come off for Low to come on, but I've got Kolisi does bring something that you cannot put on paper into a team, and I do enjoy him at number 6. You've got Dwayne Vermeulen and Pieter-Steph du Toit. Pieter-Steph du Toit has played himself into this position amazingly. One of those little things that you don't really give credit to Rassie, but he was the guy who brought Pieter-Steph into this position. He pretty much said, play there. And he has since then become probably near one of the best 7s in the world in my opinion. Underhill takes him close on, I agree, but probably the biggest player, well to be fair, that back three from on the other side of on the table, English back three, is, I'd say at the moment, the best back three you can get in World Rugby. with Curry, Vunipola and Underhill, all pretty much the quintessential best players for each of those positions. Frustrating on the breakdown, as you could see in that New Zealand game and the Australia game. Amazing when it comes to open play and cover defense, and Billy Vunipola pairs up so well with his 9 and 10 pairing that it is just looks like it's built for that. So that's where I think they're most dangerous, and they are very dangerous. Firstly, at stealing the ball in the breakdown, and secondly, cleaning out to actually, obviously cleaning out at the breakdown. But when they get on the attacking move, especially off of scrums and lineouts, they are ruthless on that position, and that's where South Africa needs to quell them down. And I feel where a lot of people are arguing as Khaleesi is, he is normally he doesn't really, I think, front up against the other forwards. He's very good on open play. He can get to breakdowns rather quickly. He's not much of a stealer, but he does have the ability to find space in open play, and he actually plays really well with the backline. Will that work for him? That is the question. Strong runner for sure, but so is pretty much everybody on the other side also. Going to the 9-10 pairing, you've got Youngs versus de Klerk and Pollard versus Ford. Whew! So Faf has had some challenges, but to be fair, people are moaning at him, but to be fair, he is probably the reason South Africa, one of the biggest reasons South Africa is in this final. Some people might argue that, but his style of play, his tenacity, his annoyance around the scrums and breakdowns, and even that is why he is there. He is frustrating. He's matured so much as a player when it comes to understanding when to speed up and when to slow down. South Africa does not play a fast ruck game, so don't play that fast unless it's needed. And you can see it. He will slow down the play up to about the opponent's 22. Then, as he notices momentum, he very, very quickly will speed up ball until he finds space. And he does that with precision and immaculate ability. And he's now become much more of a reader of the game. Youngs, for me, hasn't had the greatest season. He's good, and he has in some moments. And obviously, you can't be in the final without being a good player. But I don't feel he's the best. I feel that Vinnie Hines competes heavily with him in this position. Unfortunately, he's not in the team. Ben Youngs is great, but I don't think he's as good as Fluff. Fluff's flack is from the fact that he is probably where Ben Youngs does take him for sure, but England doesn't really utilise him as much for that, is kicking. Ford is a much more consistent kicker, and Ford is probably the best tactical kicker in the tournament with pinpoint precision. I'm sure he could hit a dinner plate from 100 metres away. Very impressive. Pollard, on the other hand, is I know some people will say this is wrong. He isn't, and it's right, he isn't the most amazing attacking flav, but when he does go on attacking runs, he breaks a lot of line. He did it against Wales. He has continuously been very impressive when he does decide to run forward, but he has slowed down that. It used to be a trademark of him to go and then snipe forward. It's how he's cut a lot of New Zealand attacks apart, and I'm hoping to bring that back into his game, because I feel like he's withdrawn from that. He's distributing a lot more, and tactically is very strong, but he isn't running as hard at the line as he used to, and I'm not sure if that's just the decision from the coaching staff how that is. Tactical kicking, he's definitely got a good boot on him and has a good kicking season as far. In last game he improved his kicking to poles, but with the fact that they got Ford and Farrell on the side, they've got a lot of opportunities there, so I've got a feeling that England will be near 100% in kicking, and Pollard is going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders as the only real backup will only come later in the game at the Stain. So that's going to be, and that could decide the game. So that he's going to have a lot of pressure, and I would like to see him open up and start running a little more direct, as I find that he often is shutting down space at the moment and not being as direct as he can be, especially considering the size of him and the ability he has. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side, Ford, as I said, tactically great. His outside man, Farrell, is showing again Eddie Jones' ability to understand and pick his team. I feel like he's not as worried about the strength and this hard running of the South African backline, going for this combination again, versus Australia being much more of definitely a stronger backline, physically running at you. So I get the combination. Farrell has grown hugely and is actually looking very much at home in that position. I feel he does lack some tactical ability, tactical prowess, and actually the position doesn't give him the ability to play as tactically as I think Farrell can. As I think when it comes to finding space for players to run at, Farrell, in my opinion, is slightly stronger than Ford in this position, more mature in this position. But that being said, Farrell has improved his ability to run at line. He's also a great outside option, and both of them seem to be also, especially adding an extra X factor when it comes to which side of a ruck they're going to be playing, which also makes that much harder for defenses. Then you've got Tuolangi, which is, whew, the guy's a beast. He is, in my opinion, is the perfect player to play against him. Is probably the best defender South Africa has right now, and he's the perfect player to face right on him. So the question here is going to be the battle of attack versus defense. Tuolangi is an outstanding attacker. He has been very solid on defense, but he prefers the front running at you ball, and he likes to get it in space. Farrell has been delivering that quite well, but I feel is the perfect player to face him defensively, and I think he could quell and pretty much neutralize him as long as they don't pull and distort the backline a little bit that can get distracted by. The Islander, a revelation for South Africa and South African rugby. Another vision from Rassie, understanding that he just needs to get into his stride, and he has in this tournament. He continues to do impressive tries, heavy runs, and is probably one of the biggest reasons why we're able to even find out space in some games, space out wide, is he causes a lot of defenses to shift in, ensure that they've marked him, and that gives us a little bit of room outside. I just would like to see him pass a little more, as I feel he can stifle the backline of South Africa with when he gets into this mode of strong running, attacking running. He sometimes starts to reduce his tendency to pass out, and I would love to see that more. Farrell, in my opinion, is a better distributor of a ball compared to him, and that's where I'm hoping that the Islander either has to run over him properly and then pop, or he has to start passing a little, as it can sometimes cause our attack to be rather predictable. Let's get to the back three here. The big men on the wings for, well, we got Johnny May and Watson. Watson had an outstanding game against New Zealand, being able to, not only when it comes to attacking some very clever attacking sniping runs, but also understanding where the opposing team was going to kick. He was very well tactically placed on that, and he was able to predict kicks, make sure that they weren't pinned back too far, something South Africa is going to definitely try and do to them, so he'll be essential to reduce that damage that he can bring to the game. So we'll have to. I can't wait to see how he brings that into the game and how he can continue that. Johnny May is a needle. He is ridiculous. He can find space nobody else can, and continues to be very good. I feel like he didn't have a great game against New Zealand. It wasn't one of his best. So I'm hoping that he is better. Some people are questioning he isn't. So hopefully he can bring his best, because I do want every player on this field to be their strongest. That being said, you've got now Mapimpi and Colby. Colby, again, didn't play last week due to injury. I hope he's at his best. We can't have players be even 10% off for this game. Everything's needed. If Colby's at his best, he will be a handful, and I'm hoping will cause the outside centres or fullback and the wing to have to tackle him, giving South Africa some space, because he is a handful on attack. He is made of soap, and the guy continues to just be impressive in that position. I can't wait to see more of him in South African rugby playing for the Springboks. On the other hand, Mapimpi is a born finisher. For me, he isn't as much of a great defender, tactically a little bit weak in defence, but he has improved over the tournament. I mean, we are finding less and less space, things where people are exploiting him on that side. He was not at all exploited in the last Wales game, and he is continuing to impress on that thing, considering even the Japan game, with the ability of the Japanese, he was very impressive. But he is definitely a finisher. Give him a ball 20 metres out of the try line with even a metre of space, and he will find a way over the try line. And that's what I do love about him. So that's what I'm saying, and that's what frustrates me about the Islander, and sometimes not getting the ball to him fully. There's such quality out wide. Very similar to Johnny May. So I'd love to see how that plays into it. And all of these fullbacks, wings, have to be perfect on defence. Something that I feel Colby probably is one of the best defenders we've got, and that's why it's it. So Mpumi just needs to look into that. Then we got Villiers versus Daly. Daly is continuing to have a good tournament. I'm happy with him. He definitely is very much. There's nothing wrong. He's damn good. So I'm very happy with that. I definitely think he's more consistent than Villy. He's got a lot of X factor, but he's got some games where it's just average. But he definitely has a lot more of a consistent performance. Villy Leroux, on the other hand, can be one of the best fullbacks in the world and one of the worst in in a 2-week span. So I'm just hoping that he brings one of his best games, because one of the biggest things stifling South Africa in the last 2 games of getting players like Colby and Mapimpi out wide and into spaces is Villy's ability to distribute that ball to him. He's often passing forward or knocking on, and that's something he needs to work on. Concentration is going to be so important. 2 minutes off on this game and the team will lose it. I shouldn't name some of the big bench players I want to get into because the video is getting long. Do you understand? The bench players for me are just as important as the front 15. I just unfortunately know this video is getting long, so I'm going to get into it. So we got Marks. Marks is definitely I think he's a great finisher and he brings a new dynamic to the team. Exactly same with Lowe. Lowe was essential for us to win that Welsh game, and he continues to be he just is as a whole new ability to be able to be a nuisance in the break line and help close down a game by giving South Africa the ball. And then obviously Herschel Jantjies. I find that at the moment Rassie isn't really bringing him in on pressure games earlier, and I would love to see that. I think he's just letting him mature, but I've got a feeling if this game is within 5 points, I've got a feeling Herschel might not even play, because Rassie he trusts him, he's a strong player, but he definitely, I feel, has just a confidence in Faf to finish out a game, and he's noticed South Africa almost dips or changes our whole style when the scrummy changes. You've noticed in a couple of games away, and I feel he probably feels he cannot risk it, so most likely won't see him coming to the field, but I would love to see that. You've got Slade, and you've got, there's just some quality players here. Joseph, Wilson, all of these are really, really quality finishers, and it's going to be, those players are going to decide this game in those last 20 minutes, and at the moment, I think that's where South Africa does have a slight edge. The question is, can they hold off the quality of the English starting 15 for long enough to bring them in and make them useful? Because I've got a feeling South Africa have a hard time chasing this game. We need to stay in front or keep within a point or two, because chasing this game hard will be tough. South Africa has done it against England previously, but it's not the same English team that's in 2018. So we will see how it goes. But yeah, guys, that's kind of how the teams face up against each other. I will have the teams up at the end of the video, so check it out. And let me know if there's anything else you want to cover, the conversations. And thanks, guys. Cheers.